And do I, in the present, do I acknowledge Martha anywhere?
I would, yeah.
I think I put before
I'll find it.
additional guests or something like that, or, no, I put public attendees or something like that.
Our select board liaisons not coming.
What's your last name? Correct.
Is
I
it the
can
same as,
check your email.
is it the same as his, John?
Thank you. Good evening. Today is August 11th. The time is 5:46 p.m. And I am opening the meeting of the Charter Review Committee here at the Paxton Safety Complex. We have a quorum as 5 of the 6 members of the committee are in attendance. First order of business is to review and accept the meeting minutes of June 23rd and July 14th, 2025. Both were modified per request of committee members. So can I have a motion to accept the minute meeting of June 23rd, please?
Make that motion.
Can I have a second?
I would second.
All those in favor designate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Let it be shown the June 23rd meeting minutes have been approved. Next, can I have a motion to approve the July 14th meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor designate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? So declare the July 14th, 2025 meeting minutes have been approved. Next thing on our agenda tonight is going to be a series of items that we need as a committee to discuss that have been brought up by the vice chair. I would ask David to kind of go through them sequentially and allow time for us to A, respond, and B, provide feedback. So with that, David, I would ask you to start with number 1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this meeting agenda has been out there, so hopefully these items in this section 4A are not new to you, but just to give you a little rundown. We've been at the point where we've talked and bounced around kind of informally, but, not as a focus on these particular issues, but it's now time that I think we need to go to the selectmen, assuming that everybody here is in concurrence and agrees and votes on it ultimately, which is, after our discussions tonight. I propose that we talk about, first of all, the item I, or AI, 4AI, which has got me lost in this piece of paper already. But the point is of that is clearly to assign town council to join and participate in the charter drafting project. As you're all aware, Steve, Gary, and sometimes me are part of that drafting project where we've made some decisions about how to proceed, and in fact, Steve and Gary have jointly gotten together and produced a very, very strong written draft proposal. I'm in the process of looking at that now. I don't have any corrections, but I have some suggestions. And as you can tell, I don't like things like 4AI, so I'm thinking maybe if we could use the word articles and sections and things like that, and numbers, that would work. But the purpose of having the town council is to give some reality to this. The town council is going to be intimately involved with this, but as you may have seen at the town meeting, the town council was kind of, I won't say flabbergasted, but he was, in the middle of trying to do something in the middle of town meeting to get that new Proposition 2.5 override before the town legislative branch there, the town meeting. And, it's like maybe the first time he saw it, and that was difficult. We need to have somebody officially who is a current member of the Massachusetts Bar. Gary and I are both retired, which means that we're not technically lawyers anymore. I guess we're just people who have a law degree. And that being said, I think it's important to bring the town council into this at our level so that ultimately the town council can benefit us as we proceed to get something that ultimately will present to you, present to the select board, and present to everybody else that we've met with and anybody else who we haven't met with but wants to participate. So with that, I'd ask if there's any discussion from anybody. Gary?
So, in reference to the drafting of the document, I'd be in favor of it being reviewed by town council once we have completed our initial draft, not before, just to make sure that the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed from a legality standpoint. I think to get them involved in creating it and reviewing what we've done in the interim would be too costly and time-consuming and not a good use of everyone's resources.
I would agree with Gary's comments. However, I would reserve right to speak on this topic even further after we've covered the next point, which I think is imperative, to further discussion around engagement of legal counsel. Because in addition to what you've outlined, I believe depending on how we provide feedback relative to the second point will clearly determine council's engagement sooner, possibly sooner, than a review of the draft once completed.
Right, and my comment is only about the drafting, not about the process.
Correct. Understood. That's why I said I agree with you, but I
Yeah.
reserve right to further, all right? So I would ask, Mr. Vice Chair, for you to now to cover point 2, and we can go back, if I may, Megan, before you comment on 1, or Chuck or anyone else. I believe it's imperative we talk about number 2, and then we can loop back and talk in total about 1 and 2, because I feel that they are quite integrally related at a great deal.
I concur, but I just ask Chuck and Megan, do you have anything you would like to add at this point? Just so that we don't get...
No, I'd rather hear the rest of the stuff and how it all fits together, but I hear what you're saying. I think that makes absolute sense. I mean, why bring him in? And I'm sure we want to be mindful of his time too, but we might have multiple iterations, and before we bring him in and let him change the course of something, we may already change it once we go through our own process.
Chuck, anything?
No,
I echo their comments.
Then addressing item II, Navy term. It suggests that we clarify the acts of the 2013 Chapter 122 entitled An Act Relative to the Form of Government in the Town of Paxton. And I suggest a clarification should be a statement on the record by vote of the Select Board, as it currently is constituted, that it was, as best they've been able to determine, and there is at least one person on there that was part of that whole era, it was intended to provide functional guidance on the measures therein, primarily the town administrator's position, and not as the charter for the town of Paxton. And you may recall that in previous meetings I've stated that there is no charter, and we have my word, if you want to take that for anything, but we also have the word of the state archivist who says there ain't no town charter of Paxton on file here where it's supposed to be on file. So with respect to that, it becomes a functional thing. The function is that if we have a charter, we have to do something with it before we can do another charter. We either graft the new charter or the proposed new charter tenets into the existing charter, which creates a whole mass of legal language. When you take a statute that exists and call it a charter, and then you have to work with it, it becomes really messy. And for purposes of cleanliness and everything else, I can't deny that it exists. It was something that was passed as a legislature through all of the process, the same special act that we're going to do, but it was not identified anywhere in the legislation as it being a charter. Therefore, we can leave it and then deal with it as an individual thing. We can deal with it if there's something in there we want to take and cut and paste into our new charter, or it's something we can revoke entirely. But again, keep in mind that revocation of that or rescission of that charter will have, of that document, even as a special act kind of thing, is going to have to go through the same process where it has to be voted on and it has to go to the legislature and everything like that. So with that being said, I think Steve has articulated, and I agree, that we need town council's participation with the drafting committee before we get to the point of them going after the draft proposals arranged. Because if we draft the charter, we need to know whether or not we are all in concurrence that there is no charter that we're trying to play with or that we're trying to adapt or that we're trying to get rid of, because there is no charter. And so I think we need to have, even maybe before we go any further, and I've reviewed all the work that you guys have done, I think this is a good point to continue, but before we get to the point of starting to say, this is our draft document, we want to present it now to you, we need to have the charter kind of like clarified. Is there a charter, isn't there a charter, officially by somebody that is a licensed and practiced and active duty, if you will, attorney with municipal experience, which sounds like the town council to me. Any comments or discussions on that?
If I may.
Sure you can.
If we discover that in presenting this to the select board, that they stoically take the position that the existing document is in fact a charter, then as David has alluded to, there then needs to be a revocation process that needs to be dealt with and masterfully handled and processed. That will add at least 6 months to possibly longer before we even get to the point where we could present a new charter. If that is what is going to be directed, this committee will be well past 2016. In addition, I will also point out to you, for a town that is currently constrained by budget, considerably constrained until September 8th, engagement of town council for any action whatsoever is time and materials and will be hit, the budget will be hit as to that council's engagement. It's not a resident council, it's one, but we have a contract, and for time and and materials services situation. It is my fervent hope, and in fact, I did everything I could, course of asking the Pope to intervene, to actually get a joint meeting for tonight, as the select board is only meeting tonight for the entire month of August, and I did not want to delay this another month. Could not get them to move. A, their agenda, quote unquote, is too busy and they're going to be here for several hours. B, because they were here for several hours of their own agenda, they did not want to come and do a joint meeting with us. All right? I will further suggest to you around the financial constraints which have impacted us. I can't get Town Hall to produce any documentation at all. They have no materials. We have flatly been denied. They won't make copies or anything else right now. So, the point is, judiciously, we need to proceed with items 1 and 2. All right? The earliest that we can get on the agenda of the select board is September 22nd, and I've made that request. That's the last meeting in September. Okay? That does not mean that we cannot, in writing, put forth these requests if we specifically articulate the requirements and ask them to move on it, or to at least address prior to the 22nd. It's my fervent hope that that will occur. That's what I wanted to hold off and say relative to items 1 and 2 and how they're interrelated. So with that, I'll stop.
That's a big
And
deal.
David, I'm sure you're seeking feedback from the other 3 members.
I am, I'm going to start with Chuck, since I started with Gary last.
So it sounds like we need the town council to basically say there's no charter, and this is.
Well, yeah, and, you know, as long as we're talking to them, we might as well ask. I mean, I think that's a primary thing, is that we have to get the town council to give the select board what they need in order to make that declaration that I'm suggesting is important.
And it seems obvious, right? Charter is not used in the charter that we've been reviewing at all, in the established.
Nothing is seeming is a term that is pretty much not in use when you're talking about evidence. And since we're talking about legal evidence, we have to go to the point of either somebody saying articulately it's not a charter, and their intent was not for it to be a charter, and it's clear based upon their learned review of the whole subject. But, you know, town council is only going to be an advisory thing. We're only an advisory thing. The select board or the executive branch, and they're the one with the power to say, no, that's not a charter. And I was hoping that that would be something they would have said earlier, and it hasn't happened yet. But now we have to formalize it, although it seems like we're way behind the time.
But it does seem like we're on solid ground, based on the archivist's response, and based on the word charter not being used prior to this, right? So I do think, right, like, I think if we can engage town council on that point, and then I agree with Gary and Megan, where I think it would be, I don't think we could afford to have him participate in the drafting, so to speak, but I think we would need to delineate, like, these are the points we would want him to weigh in, where he would review it, and.
Well, he would have to see the draft at some point. No, I don't think he should be, like, we're meeting on Wednesday, and I don't think it's a
No,
thing
but
to
I
have
think,
there, but-
I think Gary addressed it, I think, correctly.
Yeah.
What we want is, once the final draft, and I think Megan chimed in too.
Yeah.
When we've done our own review and we feel it's time to push this out, you know, for people to review and provide feedback, I think it would be then, at that point, very appropriate for council
Right.
to review. Because what I would like, honestly, is to have council provide us guidance to make sure that what is written can then be presented to our state representative and state senator for their input and their process, because they want it ahead of time too. They want it to the point where they're in a great position when it comes, when it's been approved through all phases here in town, including the town, you know, the town meeting. They want to be in a place where they then can just present it to the House and to the Senate to get their approval.
Yeah.
That all that foundational stuff and review has been completed to drive efficiency relative to the process.
So I think we just need to build that step into our process, right? Review by town council, and then have the select board sign off on that, right? Like.
Right.
And Megan, anything to?
Yeah, a couple of things. So I was looking through our notes because we did ask Julia this question at one of our meetings, and she said, no, we do have a charter. But I forget what she called it. It wasn't what the archivist said, but she said they filed something.
Oh, the special act charter.
Okay. So are we saying that this 2013 special act is the only piece of documentation ever on the Paxton Charter? There's got to be something that
No,
they
because
submitted previously
there's
as a
amendment.
base.
There's an amendment to it. They gave the 5, made it a 5-member board.
Okay.
But that's amending the special act, not the special act charter. That doesn't say it's amending a
Okay.
charter. But the fact that an official, and, you know, it's a matter of semantics when you're talking about in kind of environment we were talking about. When you get to the legal department, it's all semantics. Saying that it's a special act charter, no, what we're trying to do is a special act charter.
Yeah.
What was done is not a special act charter, but somebody at least had an opinion, probably an educated opinion and a basis, which they need to kind of put it on there. I mean, I would hate to have, let's just say, the Attorney General's office reviewing it, or the committee on, municipal law, and our state representative and senator looking at it saying, but there's a meeting here where they said it's a charter. How can you dare say it?
But, yeah, I was going to say, is there a more robust version of our charter other than the one that we have in our binders that
No.
we're evaluating?
No.
That was the only one ever created.
But what established the town, though? Because there's references,
That's not a charter, that was a king's grant that established the town.
because there's references to a charter in certain books and certain documents.
Right, but it's
When
not-
we did the 250th, there was some rereading of that, so that wasn't a
Keep in
charter.
mind that in 1756, there was no United States of America. It was we were a commonwealth, or actually we were a colony of England. And the charter they're talking about that was done by a government that that exists. And it was, as a result of the Revolutionary War, that was repealed. All of the federal law, all of the laws that were there had to be either reenacted or adopted by the United States, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, state of Massachusetts. And so there's a charter all over the place. I mean, the Paxton Garden Club has a charter, very good one, I might add. And,
For all intents and purposes.
but it's not a legal charter for purposes, everything that's out there. One of the things we want the town council to say, so that the select board can say, is that we don't have a town council. What we have there, the charter that established the town was an act of England, was passed by Parliament. Okay, that's what it is. It's just like saying, okay, well, that was a charter, but it doesn't do what our charter wants it. It doesn't establish the form of government. It just says it's a town of Paxton. So, Megan, sorry?
Yeah, no, that actually blows my mind, that really the document we're working off of is truly this, and there's no other legal documented charter that exists anywhere.
But in the absence, there is never a void in law. In the absence of a official charter that is a charter for Paxton, there's the Home Rule Amendment and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and the amendments to the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that define how the government works. That's all. And then there's bylaws which plug into little holes like dog licensing and dog fines. But there is nothing. That's the whole gist of, what I said on the first day, rather stridently, of our first appointment.
So there's going to be an education piece, right? Because I think people are convinced we have a charter.
People are convinced that something is called a charter, but it's not. I mean, clearly with the 57 meetings and the 240-plus people we talked to, not one person outside of a couple of select board people said it was a charter. Okay? It didn't read as a charter. What I believe is that once we present this question and request to the select board, before they make a decision, they're going to ask for town council to advise, to come in and actually help them determine next course. I honestly believe that. And it would be prudent for them to do so. So, would you agree, Mr. Johnson?
I would agree, but I think we got to get us on record with a letter to them and let us know, because I won't throw anybody under the bus here, but, we want the select board to say, you have some good questions here. We want to help you get them because we want to know the answers, and since you're doing the work. And that work is, involving and participating by the town council. I use words of art in that way. I didn't say before or after or whatever, whenever we think it's appropriate. And that can be what Gary said, because Gary's got some valid points, and I think you guys both jumped on that as well. So I'm not suggesting that the town council write a draft. That's doing what we do. And that town council would be doing well with the benefit of the meetings and the reviews and the work and the 40-odd charters and 40-odd charters that I read. So the bottom line for that is, I hope. But I don't want to throw anybody under the bus by saying, well, you said it was a charter, and now we got to undo you. We're trying to make it clarification. I have clarification from one point, but we don't want to get the state involved. Because then the state says, well, yeah, you do got a charter. It's in the Massachusetts Constitution, and it's we know that.
Gary, go ahead.
Gary?
A few thoughts. One, you've been a proponent of the fact that we do not have a charter, you had said from day one. And I'm not sure that any of us really understood the ramifications of what that meant. Number two, I need some explanation as to if in fact it is not a charter, which is where the direction that we're going in, what does the revocation process entail? And how did that get played out either by us or outside of our jurisdiction? And third, clearly, we're not reviewing the charter. We're rewriting it.
Right, which,
So
Establishing it.
there's no question about that. There's very little in this charter that we are accepting as we draft the new one. So truly, we're not reviewing a charter, we are creating it.
Gary, as you say, what I used to describe the charter in official conversations is the pseudo-charter. That means it's pretending to be a charter in the absence of anything that is a charter. You asked about how to get rid of it. It's just basically you write a statute that says we hereby revoke that. But the problem with doing that is then we leave us with nothing. All of the stuff that's in that charter, if you just make a simple, saying hereby the acts of whatever it was, 2013, 122 are hereby revoked. We can't say then it's and replaced by the following. We can do that if we have the mandate to do that, but we need to get the select board on that. We can put that in the draft that you have. We can make that as the first entity in there after we get through the preamble and the
Right, but
corporation.
Steve mentioned, I'm not sure if you put some time to it or not, per se, that it could add 6 months to our process.
Being that it would require, a revocation would require, I believe, as explained to me, and again, council can provide us clear detail, but it's my understanding it would have to be, go before a town meeting, have the town vote for to support the revocation, and then it would be part of a process to vote and say, yes, we're revoking and replacing it with, that's my understanding. Now, again, we would get, allow me to finish. Again, we need clarity from council, all right? But also remember, 2 of the municipalities in the entire state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, don't have charters. The Commonwealth doesn't demand any municipality to have a charter. The problem with not having one is then you are subject to all of the structure, laws, et cetera, that sit at the Commonwealth or state level, and nothing that applies specifically to your town or the challenges, nuances, or needs of that town. It's all done at a larger level, okay? I don't believe this town and the people we've talked to want the state to be dictating how we're governed or how the structure or process. I believe everyone is on board from what we've talked to that they are supportive of this and have been from day one. That's been our general feedback. So, just a point of clarification.
Gary?
So I have a question and a process, and I'm being a little bit on the naive side for a moment. So in theory, if we went to a town meeting and Article 1 of that town meeting was revoke the current charter, and Article 2 was to pass the new charter, would that automatically, as of that point in time, revoke the charter, or does that have to go to the...
It has to go all the same.
So nothing then is removed until the state votes on it. So why can't that stay in place until that time when they can vote on both of them at the same time? We remove one and replace the other.
Because then you run yourself into a logical inconsistency. It's like the old idea of going back and seeing yourself in, when you were a teenager. It's the whole problem that if you have it there and they don't revoke it, then you can't invoke the new charter.
That's a risk.
Well, we
I
don't
don't
want to
know.
have risks. We want to avoid it. I mean, as statutory construction, you want to avoid it. You mull over how you white and piss on and
But I think that that's the direction that we got to get from council when the time comes.
That ultimately is the bottom line. We need council to weigh in and give us the process
Yep.
with the select board and make sure we're all on the same page and that we can go forward. The intent of this discussion was to get these things
Done.
right.
The reality is,
In
yeah,
front of people
how it
and
would
to
look.
have
Let's
them
think of
addressed.
how it would look. You know what you've already drafted. It's, very good. But to do what I report, if we get the select board to say that, then we have the backing to put in the charter, somewhere after the preamble, saying, notwithstanding the contents of the Acts of 2013 of Chapter 122, the following shall be the charter for the town of Paxton, Massachusetts. That means we're all together, it's all coherent, everybody can say, I want this, and this is part of it. If you make it two separate things, you could end up with what happens to the town meeting relating to zoning, which still is up in arms, and we've got a December 31st deadline coming up with the MBTA thing, which is what the whole zoning problem in question was about. So we don't want to get involved in that. We want to do this nice and clean and smooth. We don't want to use notwithstanding too many times, just once.
So are we looking for today a motion from us to approve to do something on behalf of this whole process and send it off to the select board?
Yes.
All right, what is the motion that you want us to entertain?
To discuss and determine by vote of the committee whether the committee shall request a formal open meeting with the select board and request them to do 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Well, we haven't talked about 4.
We haven't got to 3 yet either. Okay? But we can vote on them separately. You've proposed potentially an amendment to Section 1. I say that it's not necessary because what I have said is to join and participate in the charter drafting project, not in the charter drafting writing.
I think maybe simply I make a motion that we bring forward to the select board a decision or an agreement that we do not have a charter, and how do we move, and with their input to move forward.
And ancillary to that is item 3 and item 4. Item 4 stands on its own, but item 3 is dependent upon item 1 and 2. I dare say we could have combined them, but that would have made them a little bit difficult to discuss. Item 3 says, or entry 3 says, rename our current charter revision committee to the committee to draft a proposed Paxton Special Act charter with the relevant mandates. We are entitled and mandated as a charter review committee. If there is no charter, it's hard to review. We reviewed a special act, actually a couple of special acts, but the bottom line is we need to be properly named and properly mandated. Otherwise, everything we can do runs the risk of being, in the legal jargon, ultra vires, beyond the scope of our authority. So everything we do can become a non sequitur, a non-entity. So why don't we put that as private? We need to get what we're doing, what we want to do. And what we want to do is what we're doing. And it has to be appropriately named. I mean, you cannot, and I've said this a couple of times in examples and during our meetings, words have meaning, words have effect. Legally, words have meaning and words have effect, like a sledgehammer. If we keep saying we're a charter review committee, I can see I won't say what, but somebody in the legislature, the attorney's office, general's office saying, well, you're a charter review committee, you don't have standing to do this. You're a mandate, so we're not even going to listen to you. And if you have a proposed draft, well, I'm sorry, you don't have the authority to make a draft. We need the wording to tell us what we can do. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't that just come in the mandate? I'm hesitant to change the name of the committee because it just gets confusing. I would argue the Charter Review Committee is exactly what we're doing. We're reviewing the charter situation as a whole,
It doesn't say
determining we don't have one, and taking the steps to resolve that. I think that's where it's salad, right?
It's not like, it's a word of art. If you can say that you're married or unmarried, if you say you're unmarried, that means something. Doesn't mean you're not living together or that you don't have children together. If you say you're married, it doesn't mean you have children. One word means something. The fact that it doesn't say to review and propose a new charter, we can't say review something that doesn't exist. What we have reviewed, it's a logical fallacy. If we say we are the charter review committee and we've decided there is no charter, We haven't reviewed a charter. Our mandate is to review a charter. We're saying that there's a charter that we have reviewed and found it wanting. It's not the same thing as saying whether it exists or does not. Again, you've got to legally establish that so you know where to proceed in order to make a charter or make a new
But
charter.
can't we cover that in the mandate?
No, no, these are
Can we-
legal words. You can't-
Can I suggest that 1, 2, and 3 need to be, as we talked about, right? A discussion with the select board, ourselves, and town council, and we address all 3 points with council's recommendations, our concurrent agreement, our committee, the select board, as to how to move forward. I believe that is the most judicious and efficient way for us to proceed. Does anyone have a disagreement with that?
Well, when you say judicious, I disagree. It's a logical way, but again, keep in mind, we want, in terms of the hierarchy, assign town council, all right? Clarify the acts for our purposes. If what you say, Chuck, and certainly within your right, but if you say that, and that's going to be one vote against getting a finding that we don't have a charter because you're saying there is a charter. So therefore, we get either a vote of, whatever we get for a vote, and it either passes or doesn't pass. Like everything else, if we go to town meeting, we want to be united. We don't want to be saying this and this, but maybe this. We want to go as a board, and I'm not speaking for Paul because he's not here, but if we say, it passed, the motion passes, we got 5 people here, right? Yes, if we have a 4-1, that's not unanimous, and that doesn't show that we're all in agreement. If it's 4-2, it doesn't show we're all in agreement. If it's, 5-1 or whatever like that, it still doesn't show that we're in agreement. Whatever the bottom line is, we have to either adopt the principle that we don't have a charter and go from there, or we don't adopt the principle because we don't agree that there isn't a charter. And it's not something that was established in 1765, and it's not something that was established in the Acts of 2013, and it's not something that exists, my best legal judgment, and I can say that, I won't say.
So-
We'll leave it to the time.
David?
I think my original motion would stand.
You have repetitively made your point.
Yeah.
Well, it hasn't carried the day, so.
If I could keep my original motion, I think that's number 1, is that we need to bring it to the select board to ask that question, and then part 2 to that is, then we need to review with the select board a scope of work, which might include renaming the committee in light of whatever the results are of that
And
question.
technically, we're not renaming, we're actually reconstituting, which comes more to the fact. I mean, we've done our review. Nobody's going to take that away from us. We're just going to say that, now we
Yeah.
have reached a stage, don't have a charter, we can't review that, so let us now
Yeah.
draft it.
So I think we're all in agreement on that. So I'd like to make a motion that we bring that up, and then we reevaluate where we go from there.
Thank you. Can I have a second,
Second.
please?
So wait, what's the motion? I want to make sure I have the motion.
I motion that we bring forward to the select board the question of, how do I word this? If the legality of our charter as it stands right now.
Well, how would
Or-
how would we go to sign the town council so that he can be part of that beforehand?
I don't think that we can tell the select board to or not to get town council. That's up to them to make that decision. I think we know what the right decision is, but it's up to them, because they will incur some expenses and fees, and that's beyond
Correct.
our control.
Correct.
We can make a suggestion, but in the essence, you're right, the decision is theirs.
Yeah.
Well, not to argue or be argumentative, but any board.
I think we've
established-
passed that, by the way.
No. We have the ability to go to town council directly. We're a board.
I'm not going to be incurring fees that we don't have.
Agree.
And so I think that all that we can do as a committee right now practically is to get the select board to meet with us and then to get a review and discussion about whether or not we do have a charter, and if we do not, can we be renamed?
Yes.
And what are the legalities moving forward to make sure that our process is going to be pure?
Okay.
It's going to be what?
Sure, that's going to work.
All right.
All right.
You good?
No. So what's the motion, right? So,
Stop. Gary, can you write what you just said, kind of capture that and say that as the motion?
How about if we just, can I make just a suggestion, Gary? How about we just take A and leave it there and request them to consider the following?
Okay.
How's that? That way, we asked the committee to all have a formal open meeting with the select board and consider the following. Should we assign town council to join it? Should we clarify the chapter? And should we rename? How's that?
perfect. So we were saying points 1 through 3, so
Points 1 through 3.
we
Right.
bring forward to select board.
Request them to consider assigning town council, clarifying the acts,
Consider.
renaming, so points 1, 2, and 3.
Points 1 through 3. Okay, we bring forward to the select board and request them to
All right.
consider points 1
Can
through
we
3.
move on to 4, please?
Sure. This one here stands on its own.
I'm sorry, are you all set now on 1?
Yes, but are we acting on that motion, or?
Yeah, we didn't second or vote it. Do we need to?
Oh, second.
Okay,
Just for,
all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, unanimous. All
Wait,
right, let's
second?
talk about 4.
I'm terrible at that.
4 is something we need to do because as long as we're drafting a charter, we got to make sure, and we've had a lot of people talk, well, what about the bylaws? Well, bylaws are not the charter. Bylaws in the town are basically a supersedure for getting things that apply specifically to the town done. The process is not, you have to go to a town meeting on a warrant, you have to have a vote and go to the legislature. A bylaw gets written up by the committee or the entity, and then the bylaw is then presented to the Attorney General's office, which says it meets the requirements or it does not meet the requirements. The only requirement is that it cannot abridge an existing law to the contrary that supersedes that. In other words, a state law or federal law. So that's real simple. But the reality is, we want to know what we got to put in, how much we got to put in. If we have a bylaw committee working at the same time we're doing our drafting, we can know if they say, we're going to put in everything about parking tickets in the town of Paxton, which may or may not be an open subject or a sore subject. That is something that we don't have to worry about. We don't have to address. If we don't have a bylaw committee, we have to address it because it's one of the needs that we need to resolve, interpreting what people's powers have, like the.
I respectfully disagree, and here's why. I believe that part of our mandate should be that we define the requirements from our committee perspective on what needs to be addressed by the select board calling to order a brand-new committee to review and modify the bylaws. I think our requirements, if we articulate them, serve as the input to that process once that committee starts or is called to order. I don't believe it needs to be addressed. The timing could be now, it could be 6 months from now. Okay? Either way, what is imperative as far as I'm concerned is that our requirements of that effort are clearly defined, articulated, and then serve as an impetus for that, for the select board to call that group or to establish that new committee.
Okay, then what you've done is, you'll note that in some of the things that you've drafted, Gary, and you say notwithstanding any law to the contrary. That would mean that you'd be revoking bylaws that you don't even know you're revoking. And you will be doing that because there are things that you have proposed to be in the draft charter, or are in the draft charter, that may or may not contradict what's in the bylaws. So therefore, if you don't do it coordinating with the bylaw committee, you will be potentially removing legally a bylaw that already exists from existence.
is that what
So
town council?
if you
would
do that, then I will tell you, quite frankly, you are putting the town in a situation where you might be revoking something that can be revoked a lot easier all right, and handled a lot better in a bylaw, and you are putting a situation where I'm going to say some of the stuff you have in there that we need to do something with it, put it in the chart, take a bylaw, something that should be in the bylaw, and put it in the charter, because we don't want to contradict it. We want to make sure that we keep it. Other problem is, there's so many bylaws out there that really aren't bylaws, that don't have any force, because they were never followed the procedure necessary to make them real. They are something that the town voted for, but the Attorney General's office never saw. That means they are not bylaws, they are proposed bylaws, and since some of them are relatively old, they don't even apply anymore, because they aged out.
Can I make a motion to table that number 4 to our next meeting, if it's not before the select board meeting, just to give us time if we need for the rest of our items? Because I feel like that's a really important conversation that we might need more than 10 minutes on.
Agreed. And certainly can be addressed. All right.
Because I think we have one more meeting before the next select board anyway, so.
We have 25th, we have a meeting.
Okay.
August 25th. We can put it on there, on that agenda to discuss.
Okay, so there's a motion to table discussion of,
To table.
Item 4.
Item 4 to our next meeting, so we can
Right.
add a little more time on that, because I think it's important.
Okay, is
I
there a
second.
second? It's a table.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Opposed? I oppose.
Okay.
you post.
I oppose.
All right, item 4, update regarding a social event. This is 9:19 or 9:20 per an email that was sent by Megan.
Yes, and so I got another update to that. So we also have the possibility of October, and now where I'm hearing us talk a little bit about language, I want to make sure what we open up to the public is the right information when we share it with them. So they're ready for us, their preference is September 20th, and they're giving us the entire building upstairs and the field to do a pretty big event. We can invite up to 200 people. And they can bring food trucks, we can have a whole room for a presentation, we can talk to whomever we want. We can open it to the community, and then we can also open it to a community networking where we could do cornhole games, fun stuff out on the turf, and it'll give us a chance to really chat with the community about the charter work. So the two times that are on the table is the September 20th is their preference, but also October 25th. Those are two potential dates, and there is a fee involved, and the cost is $100. Now, we could fundraise for that 100, or we could ask a donor for that if we don't have the funds, because what I'm hearing is we want to be very conscientious. And that is specifically only for a cleaning fee for the size of the crowd we're trying to draw. So it's up to the group if we want to pursue this or not.
I have a question. Along the same line, we do have the authority, but we're not going to exercise it, or attempt to exercise it, to take funds that have been assigned in the budget for, and request that a portion of them be used to the town council. What right do we have to solicit funds? We are not an entity, and there's no appropriation. So just like the library is finding out with their lemonade thing and all that sort of thing, it would have to be like a 501c3 entity out there that would pay the fee, because we can't generate income and we can't spend money.
Yeah.
So,
As we have no budget of our own.
Right.
well, even if we had
The
a,
other option, I think, is if our committee each threw in $20, we could easily do it as a contribution. But that's only if we want to. It's a great venue for us to capture a good chunk of the population to help them understand what we're doing and solicit feedback.
I don't doubt that. I just think that we need to have a entity out. I mean, I'm fine making donations, but the problem with making the donations, you can't make them directly. You have to make them to the third party that has a right to do it. If we all get together, put $20 in a hat and go bounce it over to the soccer asylum, no. We don't have that authority. Too bad we don't have a 501c3
individuals?
around here that might help.
As individuals, we can't say I'm gonna pay for them.
Sure, if it doesn't involve plants and dirt, sorry.
All right, so,
Everything involves plants.
okay,
Is the same thing apply then for our potential coffee hour? We would donate the coffee, but does that not count?
No, Dunkin' Donuts would don't, you go to Dunkin' Donuts and
Right.
have something provided for free.
It's the same sort of premise, I guess.
All right.
Do we want to do a
Can we-
community event?
I was going to say, let's talk in item 4 in this context. A, do we want to do this? All right, setting funding aside, do we want to do this? Either 9:20 or 10:25, did you say? All right. Can I have a motion? Do we want to do this? Yes or no, right? I want to hear,
So before I think we come to that sincere recommendation or vote, sounds to me as if there's got to be some clarity regarding who we are as a committee and where we stand with what we're doing, because by October, we may be doing our work and could be done, but if we haven't some clarity regarding the overarching issue as to whether or not the charter or not, then there's no purpose of having that meeting.
That's why I paused, thinking September would not be appropriate.
all right, so why don't we, I would suggest there's no way we're going to get what we've discussed done by 9:20. Not
think
with
so
the
either.
SB, not even, after tonight, not even meeting until the 8th, and we don't even have a means to talk to them other than sending that official
That's right.
communication, which we talked about, covering 1, 2, and 3. So I would suggest minimally, we're talking 10:25.
That's what I was thinking too.
If it's a go.
Okay.
All right? And details to be determined, and frankly, whether or not we even do it, yet to be determined.
Okay. So
Right.
I make a motion that we look at October 25th as our starting point for a potential event.
All right. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Can I have a vote? All those in favor designate by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so passed.
October 25th
All right, item 5, old business.
for our event.
Megan sent off an email to the town clerk to change the town, Paxton, our website on the Paxton Town website. My issue was, no feedback was asked for any of us before she did that. It was sent out without any of us even reviewing or whatever. I found that what was written read more like the poster board that sat on the easel at Paxton Days. That's my only feedback to you at this point. I'm not sure it hits the mark, but I would ask for everyone to take the time to look and edit and provide Megan feedback. Fair?
Sure. I mean, it's a place to give an update on information that we have to this point, which is exactly what we provided.
Yep. All right. Anything else on, under 5? Any old business that we need to address other than that?
What was the whole, was it?
No, October 25th.
All right, new business. We need another newsletter. The last one was produced in May. I would ask that the communications group get together and put their heads together, and let's target a new newsletter to be published and be able to be distributed by 9/1. Is that reasonable?
I don't think we should. I think we need to wait till after we decide what we're doing.
I also think we need to find out how we're going to get it copied. Who's going to pay for that?
I feel like we need-
We'll talk about that,
That
but the
missing
bottom
piece.
line is, remember, we're talking about what has been accomplished since May, which was our last official update, until September. We certainly have enough to publish in a newsletter to provide an update to the community at large.
outside of us holding interviews, what are we sharing with the public? Because we can't give them dates to share feedback. We can share that we were at Paxton Days. I'm looking for a cost-effective way. I don't think it's necessarily we have to rush to do 9/1 until we have concrete pieces to print in that. I'd rather wait, this is my thought, until the October 1 and push it out, because we will have dates, hopefully, key dates and key direction on where this committee goes to use the funds, not twice, but one time. We could, in the interim, continue to use the social piece for updates. It's free. Versus, I'd rather use a paid publication to push out actuals that we want them to participate in. Originally, I thought 9/1 would work, but after hearing tonight's conversation, I almost think we have to wait.
I think you could get a newsletter together with, it doesn't have to be all accomplishments, it could be all things that we're looking at, considering. And one of the things we could bring to the public is the question of, is there a charter? I mean, we've talked to a lot of people and they said, no, that's not a charter. We had the definition. Steve, in every one of those meetings, defined what a charter was based upon the statutory description of Massachusetts. And so we could get, hey, what do you think? I mean, you can put things in.
Where does that get us, though? I think with the
That's
town council,
yeah.
It gets the newsletter out. I mean, people have asked, where's your newsletter? We had one, and now we need May into September. Well, let's do May to September. Let's get some of the stuff in. Haven't we done anything?
All right, let's table this and talk some more.
Yeah.
Well, I just have a couple
I still think we have a substantive amount of information, and we can also outline our schedule for the rest of our, which we have not done. There is more than enough relative, and it's not just that we completed the interviews. There's lots of things that have been done. All right?
And we could do an online newsletter where we don't print it. I mean,
We
it's not
could- we
ideal.
could do that
Push
too.
it out that way.
We
All right.
definitely could.
The other thing, the other item under number 6, I have requested in sending to the chair of the select board and the executive assistant to the select board, requests for our committee to do formal updates on 9/22 and 12/22. We are waiting their approval to have us be put on the agenda. All right? All right. Any questions on that? All right, item 7, do we have any questions from the audience? Is there anybody even, no?
People are watching, there's a couple people watching, but no chat questions.
All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a question.
Yes.
So in terms of current bylaws that have been approved by the state, how do we know which ones they are?
Well, you have to do some legal research, Gary.
Now, I believe...
Go online to various sources.
I don't believe
Talk to
you
the
need
AG's
to.
office.
I don't believe you need to. I believe the town clerk is aware of what has been approved and what has not.
Well,
All right? I believe she is, and if there is a question, to David's point, we would have to go to Steve. All right. Now can I have a second to the motion to adjourn? All right. All those in favor designate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
I'll abstain. I abstain.
Just to be argumentative. Meeting is officially closed.
Wait, so you abstain?
I abstain.
No. If he allows us to do more than one.
discovertheforest.org.
Hey, you going out like that?
Yeah, why?